Welcome back to the R-Rated Podcast. The R-Rated Podcast. This week's guest is...
Welcome back to the R-Rated Podcast. Today we're entering the fall series of the podcast. As you know, it's been Heat Wave Harry over here. Yes, I did just name the heat wave that was in LA, but I am not over-exaggerating when I say it was too hot to podcast in here. I was worried my guests would literally melt away, and I didn't want to do that, so I was like, let's just wait a little bit and then enter the fall season. So we're here. Sorry, I should say fall series. We're still in season 2. We're just entering the spooky, fun fall time. So, I'm going to kick things off with a few things today. We're going to talk about the controversial Dahmer show that is trending on Netflix. But I'm going to tell you guys some exciting things first because it's been a while since we did a follow-up episode. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, you wouldn't know this, but I actually taught Lizzy Caplan some German words for the show Fatal Attraction. She had a scene where she speaks German, like a few words, and they asked me to help her. I'm going to get to that, but I also want to say that we're also going to talk about how I met Halle Bailey, our new Little Mermaid. Yes, Disney announced the freaking Little Mermaid trailer, so I'm excited to talk about that as well. And the controversialness coming with that. I think it's important to talk about things that are going on, especially in the entertainment industry, because this is what the podcast is about, to keep it real, talk about what's really going on, and not to sugarcoat things. So I'm excited to get into that. But first, let me explain how I was able to teach Lizzy Caplan some German words, because it was like a what the fuck moment, because I never expected this would ever happen, but I am super happy, super grateful. I'm like, this is literally like fulfilling like childhood dreams. And it's just like one of those situations where you're like, I didn't expect this, but it brought me a lot of satisfaction. So, as you know, I'm working on the show Fatal Attraction. I'm the health and safety manager. So I do all things COVID related, making sure crew is safe, crew wears their masks, so we can keep the show, on the road and finish as we have planned, which is supposed to be the beginning of November. So whenever we shoot at the studios, I actually have the luxury of being able to step away and go to my office, because since we're at the studio, with every department head gets their own office, so they have that time to prepare for the next block or whatever it may be. And whenever we shoot at the studios, I'm very confident in my team, just because we shoot there a lot. So everyone kind of knows the drill. Everyone knows what to do. So I can kind of like step away, and it's a good feeling. So I was sitting in the office, and I got a text, and it was the executive producer's assistant. He also wrote an episode or two, I believe. And I was like, odd. Why am I getting a text? Like, what's going on? I'm a little nervous. And the text said, hey, you speak German, right? I remember when we had lunch, you mentioned you were born in Austria and you spoke German. And I was like, OMG, like they remember. Like that was like my first thought. I thought it was really exciting, because I was like, oh, like they thought of me. Like that's cool. And I was like, yeah, I do speak German. Like, what do you need? Like, you need my help? Like, I can, let me know. And she told me, she was like, I might need your help for some German translation, and like maybe like you can write things down phonetically, because there's a scene we're about to shoot that has some German words, and Lizzy has to, she has to say these words, and she wants to pronounce it correct. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense, like totally. And I was like, I can write it down on the script, and then I can tell you how to pronounce them. Do you want to come to the office? I'm sitting in here right now. Plus, I thought it would be an easier way to like kind of like pronounce things, because we have like the freedom of like being alone in a space versus being at a soundstage where everyone's working and around us. And she was like, yeah, let's plan to do that. And then I was like, okay, great. Like, see you in a few. I'm waiting. Nothing happens. And then I get another text. And she's like, Lizzy Caplan wants to meet you. And I literally like freaked the fuck out because not only is this like a childhood like fulfillment of like, oh my, because I see her, you know, work all the time, but it's different like seeing them perform and work and do their thing and like kind of staying out of their way, you know, than like they want to meet you and actually like talk to you and like, you know, who knows what. But I was just like, okay, like just a little bit panicked, you know. And I basically decided that I was gonna help Lizzy Caplan. I was like, okay, like this is what it is. Like I'm gonna do it, right? And I was like, okay, like where do you want to meet? And she's like, I'm actually gonna come to your office, but I'm gonna like bring you the script, and so you could read it, and then we can go down and meet her. And I was like, oh shit, because that just like made it super real. But I was like, okay, yeah, like of course I'm down. I'm not gonna be like no. Um, so I basically waited for her. We went to go print out the script. I had like my name like printed on the script like across from it, so it's like my copy with my name on it, which was exciting. And I'm like reading through the scene and I'm like reading the words, and luckily it was like words that I felt totally comfortable translating and talking to her about. Like I wasn't like, oh my god, I was like scared. I don't know why I was scared I was gonna like black out and like forget German all of a sudden. I know it sounds silly, but I'm just like, you never know. Like in a moment of panic, like anything can happen. Not that I was panicking, but I'm just like, you guys, like I literally used to watch Janice Ian, like, oh, not Janice Ian, well, like her character in the movie so often. I don't think any goth character has been played more iconic. And I honestly mean that because I feel like in all the old high school movies, they would like portray them as just like goth people keep to themselves. They wear dark clothing. They don't show emotion. Like they had like this like stereotype. So like when Janice Ian's character came upon us, and she just like had personality. She was sarcastic. She was funny. She played pranks. She was wise. She just like kind of like saw through the fucking fakeness in high school, and I thought that was really cool. And I don't think any other gothic character, especially in high school movies, have like done it better than her, honestly. So I was always a fan. And then, you know, she obviously went on and got bigger roles, got roles where she plays, you know, a magician, and Now You See Me, where she plays mind games and stuff, which I thought was really cool. The Interview, where she's with Seth Rogen and James Franco, and they're like doing this whole like the task of going to North Korea. Like I don't know, there's a lot of cool different roles that she plays, but obviously that's the most iconic for me. That's also the first movie that I ever watched with her in it, like her first movie. I feel like I don't know if it's her first movie, but that was like the first movie that I saw of her, and that was early on in her career, so that was exciting. Anyway, I am having this like all these thoughts in my head. We go down there. I'm like on a table, like not on a table, like sitting at a table, phonetically writing the words like how you would pronounce it in English, because it's definitely just pronounced differently. In German, you pronounce exactly how it's spelled out. So like I made this mistake when I was a kid. The word stomach. When I first moved here, I read Charlotte's Web. I didn't know how to read. And my mom bought me the book Charlotte's Web. So I was reading it to her out loud, and I stumbled upon the word stomach. I know how to say it now, but back then I said stomach. And I remember just saying like, it was like something along the lines like, oh, like Wilbur's stomach was hurting. And I was like reading it. My mom was like, what did you say? And I was like, what did I do wrong? Like, I was like, I'm reading, like, it's fine. And she's like, you said stomach. I don't know what that means. And I was like, well, that's what it says right here. Like, I'm just reading it. And then she's like, no, it's not stomach, it's stomach. And I was like, oh. So I felt a little embarrassed. But anyway, that was like an example of like how you would read certain words. So it was definitely a little confusing. And I ended up, trying to do my best writing it phonetically. There was like this one word that's like Kummerspeck, or like Schadenfreude, whatever. It's just like Schadenfreude is like being happy for someone, like acting like you're happy for someone, but you're not really, like you're a little jealous. Like that's Schadenfreude. So it was just like different words that were in the scene, and I was like, oh, like I'm gonna write it out as much as I could. And I did that. I highlighted all the German words so she knew like when it was gonna come up in her dialogue. And so I thought that was it, right? I was like, okay, that's, I didn't even think really she was gonna like talk to me. So I was like, okay, I wrote on her script, like I fixed, I like told her how to write it, and all of a sudden, over the walkie, because we also always have walkies in her ear, I hear Priscilla Brechtinger, Lizzy Caplan wants to see you in the courtroom, because we were shooting in like a fake courtroom. That was another set we had built. I didn't personally build it, but the construction team built it. They built it in one of the sound stages, and they're like basically like come over there. So everybody was like looking at me like, why is the COVID girl like talking to her? Which is fair. Like, why is the COVID girl talking to her, right? Not saying that I have COVID, but I'm saying like I'm the COVID manager. Like it was just like, Lizzy, COVID manager. What's going on? So that maybe even stirred even some more like, controversial. Like, does she have COVID? Like, what's going on? She didn't have COVID. We meet in the courtroom, and they're like, this is Lizzy Caplan. And I was like, oh, like, hi, nice to meet you. Like, I'm Priscilla. And they're like, she's the COVID manager. She works with us. And she's like, oh, yeah. Like, I've seen you around. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I've seen you around. Didn't know. I didn't do that. But, anyway, I like to show my goofy personality on the podcast because I'm like, like, obviously, like, it's cool to be around this, but you have to keep your cool also. You can't be, like, fangirling too hard. But in the inside, I was like, this is super exciting. So I was like, so yeah, like I wrote the words out phonetically for you. If you want, we can like go over it and I can like pronounce it for you. And she was like, I really want to, like, she was so sincere and so nice. She's like, I really want to, but, I have to finish the scene and then, they're going to put me in wardrobe and this and that. And like, she had like literally like a list of 15 things that she was going to have to do next. And I was like, don't worry. Whatever you need, just let me know. I'm here. I'm here all night with you guys, basically, like, because, I have to do the 12 or plus overtime hours with them as well. So basically, I was like, don't worry. And she was like, actually, I have an idea. Like, could you record yourself on my phone? And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, So I basically recorded my voice pronouncing all these German words on her phone. So yes, Lizzy Caplan has a recording of my voice. Not to brag, but like kind of. But yeah, so I'm recording all the words. It's like about like 2 minutes long. And that was like kind of like the task of the day. I was like, cool, I did it. Like today I recorded my voice on Lizzy Caplan's phone. I met her. We got to talk. She was introduced to me. Sick. Great day. Great work day. I was like, successful day. So I thought that was it, right? I was like, cool. And then the next day passes. Don't think much. I'm like, we're just going to get back to like regular shooting. It's going to be cool. Like whatever. I'm shooting, time goes by. I'm like going in between the sound stages and back to the office. And then I get another text and it's like, can you come and talk to Lizzy again? And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So I go to the sound stages again and they're like rehearsing their scene. And she's like, thank you, for like recording the videos or the voiceover. She's like, but do you mind like being on standby, like close by in case I need to like have you say the words like and repeat, like just so I can like hear it right before I say it. And I was like, oh yeah, no problem. Like I could be on standby. So I was like really close by, and then she would like go do her scene, and then whenever she would like want my help or basically ask like how to pronounce it, I would like shout it out. First it was, I was not confident about it. I was just like, like saying it like quietly whenever she needed me. She's like basically saying like, say it louder. And I was like, okay, like Lizzy Caplan wants me to like say it louder. I gotta say it louder. So then I was like saying it in this like volume, right? I was like, back, or like whatever the word was. And so then she would repeat it. And then I was like, oh my God, like my voice is like literally being recorded in this scene right now. I think it's gonna be funny for the editor. They're like, where's this fucking random voice coming from? But yeah, she nailed it. She was able to repeat it perfectly. I think all she really needed was just to hear it right before she was gonna say it, which I get it. Like if you don't know German, like that's fucking intimidating and it's a lot. Like you're already like having to memorize all these lines, and you have to like put yourself in this character, and her character is very like not your most normal girl. Let's just say that. Like the character is a little cuckoo. So having to go back and forth from that, plus she just had sex with this in the scene. So she's like in that zone, and then now she's trying to impress the guy by like throwing German words out there. So it's like there's a lot going on. So she has to focus on a lot. So I was like, I get it, girlfriend. Like, let me be here for you. Let me be your right hand. Deine rechte Hand in German. But basically, I was there and we did the scene and it went great. And then she was like, thank you so much. She was really like grateful for it. And I really appreciated that, because sometimes when you meet certain celebrities, especially like childhood celebrities that you like looked up to, or Disney stars or whatever, or like just iconic actors, and then you find out they're not like how you thought they were. They're like kind of mean, or which I'm sure it comes, like the fame comes with a lot of stress. Like you have like paparazzi following around, like you don't have privacy. People always judge your constant move. It can get a lot. So like I get why like sometimes people turn out like to be a little salty, but also like I don't think it's fair to treat everyone like that, especially people that you work with and are trying to like make this like artwork, because like it's a team job, and it's like I get like shit in your like regular life is crazy and out of control, but like don't take it out on everyone else is what I'm saying. Like you're gonna have your off days, you're gonna have bad days, everyone does, but it's not nice to be mean. Wasn't my best phrase, but whatever. Anyway, so I think I'm done. I'm like, okay, like it can't get any more than this, right? Like I like that was probably all they needed me for. And then I go back to the office, and then like later in the day, like 2 hours later, when they were like at the last scene, they were doing coverage on the main actor, the guy. And they were like, do you mind like saying the words, like coming back down and saying the words again while we do his coverage, so like he can react to it basically? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I thought like Lizzy was going to be there and I was just going to do the same thing again. But this chick was in the hair and makeup trailer. Not like, because it wasn't her fault or anything, but they were like, we got to get her ready for the next scene. So they had me like fill in, and like they wanted me to read the words. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I can do that. Like no stress, no panic, but inside like panic. Because I was like, I have to like, I can't just like read it like a fucking robot, it has to have like some emotion. And especially if he's like reacting to it. Like I didn't want to be like, dun, 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 like all stiff. So I was like trying to hide in the corner so I wouldn't come out in the scene. So I was like crouched down, like, hiding. And I guess my voice wasn't that loud because I was wearing a mask, because we're indoors, because we still have to wear masks indoors. And I was like crouched down on the ground and trying to be out of the way. And remember, this was a sex scene, okay? So in the scene, he's like around the corner, like, those like changing wardrobe things where like it's like a blockade, and then you like throw your clothes over. It's like a barricade basically where you can change. And it's like this, like it's not that big. It was like maybe like 5 feet long or something. And he's like putting his clothes back on, and I'm on the other side of it, like saying the lines like where Lizzy Caplan was. And he comes around. They're like, okay, cut. And then the AD was like, you might have to like speak up and say it like a little louder, because he has to like hear it, because it was kind of hard to hear me. And I was like, oh yeah, like no problem, I got this, right? Like I'm like, I'm so sorry, like the scene didn't work out because of me, like all scared. And then I'm still like on the ground, right, like crouched down. Josh Jackson comes from around the corner. Josh, if you're listening to this, you're probably not, but if you are, I thought this was funny. So he comes from around the corner, and I'm like at a low angle, and so I'm just like looking up to him, and he was just wearing his like little tidy whities, because in the scene he was wearing tidy whities and like no shirt. And I was like, hi. And he's like, could you like say the line? Pretty much saying like, can you like try better? Like, can you try harder? And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, yeah. But he was like he was good at giving me notes. He's like, yeah, like maybe you could like pace back and forth, and then like by this line, like land here. And I was like, yeah. And I actually understood it. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Because it also like made the voice like sound like it wasn't just like in one position where it was just like you just hear it here. And like, because she was pacing back and forth, she was like trying to like tease him and shit. So I was like, oh yeah, it makes sense. So I did the same thing. And then like I would read it and give like a little pause. And we did it in one take. It was great. They're like, we got it. Like, so we like, I did the scene, they're like, cut, we got it. And I was like, yes. And it was awesome. It was a great feeling. It was super cool. Not many can say like, hey, I had a scene with Josh Jackson that I actually recorded in German. So I thought that was really cool. Editors, whoever's editing, well, I do know who's editing the show because I COVID tested you, but editors for A Fatal Attraction, can you keep that clip and send it to me? Because I kind of want to put that on my resume. I was even thinking like, hey, once this whole COVID thing ends, maybe I could be a German translator for TV shows or movies or whatever. So if anybody has an in on that, please hit my line because I might need to pivot into that next. Anyway, that was my Lizzy Caplan Josh Jackson German translation story. Yes, it was crazy. It was random. It was out there, but I really wanted to share this because 6-year-old Priscilla would be screaming. 26-year-old Priscilla was still screaming as well. But, you know, you get the point. So next, let's move on to Halle Bailey, the Little Mermaid. So you're not going to believe it. It's super random. So I had been working so much. Like I've been working like anywhere from like 75 hours to 85 hours a week. And yes, it sounds crazy. I work a lot of overtime hours. The film industry is very, 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 very crazy. And like, in a sense of like, you don't work 8 hours. Like 8 hours is like, that's like a short day. Like I called my mom the other day. I was like, Mom, we got out early. And she's like, oh, you did? Like, when did you get out? And I was like, we only did 8 hours today. And she's like, that's a regular work day for like anybody else. And I was like, right. Regular work days for me are like 12 hours. Sometimes we do like 13, 14. I think the longest I did was like 16-hour day once. And I was fucking exhausted. Beat. Not saying that it brings the best out of me, but you know, we got to get the show done. We got to get it done. We have a deadline. So I get why we do it. And, I basically was feeling a little overworked, but I was like, it's not like, oh my God, like I'm like working so much and they don't take care of me. They take care of you, but like, you know, it's exhausting. Even being young, like I just feel tired. So I can't even imagine what it feels like for people who are like, you know, have been doing this for like 40 years. It's really draining. So I give those people a major applaud. I'm like, damn, good for you. You got that energy. I also want to know your secret. But anyway, yeah, so I was overworked and I was like, I need a vacation. Like I need to like step out of LA for a second and just like reset. It might sound dramatic, but I think everyone who lives in LA, I think knows like you kind of have to like get out of LA for like a weekend or however many days you need, but just to kind of like reset yourself because LA is like a little bubble where, you know, things are a little bit more like high speed here. It's like very like, oh, like what's next? Like social media, like everything's just like so, I don't know what the right word is, but like LA is its own thing. I'm just going to say that. So it is really refreshing to like kind of leave LA sometimes and not be so like high sprung all the time and not be working long hours and not everything be like entertainment. So I decided to go to Vegas. I don't know how this makes any sense. But anyway, I just wanted fun. And I got this like random urge of like wanting to gamble and see a magic show because those are two things I've never done in Vegas. Also, Southwest was having a sale, $59 sales. Southwest sponsor me. But anyway, I just like that. I just saw the sale and I was like, this is kind of necessary. I'm like, it's so cheap. And, it's only like a 50-minute flight from LA. And I was like, it's close enough where I can do like a quick little like 24-hour like weekend trip. So I ended up going to Vegas. And on my way to Vegas, I'm at the Burbank airport. So I think that's another reason why I was like super shocked. I'm like, what? We're at the Burbank airport. Like, how's this happening? But I'm at the Burbank airport. My gate is literally the first one there. So I had like 30 minutes to kill. I was like, I don't know what to do. I ended up going to the airport bar and having a margarita with my boyfriend before we're gonna hop on the flight. And we were just like, you know, killing some time. That margarita went through me and I was like, I got a 10-1. Anyone who doesn't know what 10-1 means, it's a film reference. It means you gotta go pee. I think it started because, you know, you're like back to the walkie thing. You're all on a walkie. So if you're like, announcing it on the walkie, like, hey guys, I gotta pee. Like you're just letting everyone know and it's kind of embarrassing. So the reference 10-1 came to be. And that basically means like, I'm going to step away and go to the bathroom. So I had a 10-1 and, my boyfriend's like, okay, I'll wait out here. So I like go in and as I'm going in, someone comes in right behind me And I looked because I liked her outfit. I was like, oh, like that girl's stylish. And as I'm thinking this, I'm like already like making my way into a stall. And like the girl behind me was making her way into the stall next to me. So like I got like another side, like quick little side eye, like side look. And I was like, huh, that looks like Halle Bailey. But I was like, probably not though, because like I don't think she would just be like, you know, walking around like just in the Burbank. I don't know why. I was like, she probably has a private jet. I don't know. But anyway, I was just like, it can't be her. But then I was like, maybe it is her. So I was just like, we'll just see. So anyway, I was in this dog, do my thing, come out, I'm washing my hands. She comes out. And when I see her, I get a good look this time. And I'm like, oh, that's her. Like, that's definitely her. And I'm like washing my hands. Mind you, I had a margarita. So I was like, I wasn't like shy. I'll just say that. Tequila doesn't make me shy. And washing my hands. And I see her. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, that was like my initial like reaction. I was like, oh my God. Like, I was like, I can't wait. I really am excited to see the new Little Mermaid. So I just told her, I was like, oh my God, like, I'm super excited to see the Little Mermaid. Like, I can't wait. And she's like, oh, like, thank you. Like, she's very soft spoken, which was really nice. Like, she's very humble. And she was really beautiful. She was like, thank you so much. Like, you know, like, she was just like thankful for it. And I took my opportunity. I was like, can we take a picture together? I was like, my little sister, she's so excited to see the Little Mermaid. So I just want to show her this photo. And she's like, yeah, like, of course. So we ended up taking a mirror selfie at the Burbank Airport bathroom. So I thought that was funny. I was like, what a random like thing to experience, but like super cool, especially because like I also work in the industry. So I was like even more excited about it. And again, it's a childhood movie. Like that's they're making a live action. So like, how is that not exciting? Also, I want to talk about the controversialness coming with this whole Little Mermaid thing. I think it shouldn't be a controversial thing. I don't know why people are so upset about the Little Mermaid being a African American actress. I think it's very, very old school mindset. It's mean. It's cruel. Like why? Like it shouldn't matter. I think the fact that we are so like stuck on like it needs to look like this drawing that someone drew like years ago. I'm like, we're changing. Times are changing. The film industry is adapting. Like this is a step in the right direction. I think we should be more positive about it. And especially if it's someone that is so sweet and humble like Halle, I don't think she should be getting any hate, especially about something that she can't control. This is who she is. This is what she looks like. And for you to be so sour and bitter and hate on that, that just makes you a shitty person. And frankly, who wants to be around that? I wouldn't. I just think it's like really rude and immature. And it's just something you're going to have to get used to. To all the haters out there that are hating about this, like, oh, like she shouldn't be casted as a Little Mermaid. Why? What's your problem? Why shouldn't she be casted as a Little Mermaid? There's been so many movies, so many shows where they have white actors play African American characters, Asian characters, Indian characters, Mexican, Hispanic. I've seen so many where they try to make them seem like they're Mexican or they're Persian. Like, and I'm like, no, I'm Mexican and Persian. I know what that looks like. That's not that. Like, it's just like people want to feel like they want to feel like they're being resembled on TV. They want to feel like they're being seen. Like they want to see their stories as well. Like if we're always seeing the same type of people, doesn't that get boring? I'm like, come on guys, let's switch it up. So that's basically all I wanted to say about that. I just thought the controversialness online is really like fucked up and it shouldn't be happening. I think it just also shows what kind of person you are. So leave the hate off and come on, like this is a kid movie. This is a childhood movie. Like what kind of message are you really sending out to the younger generation by being a hater online? Especially like, you know how easy it is to see things online and access things. Like, come on, let's be better. Let's be better as a freaking society and generation. Anyway, back to my story though. I was like, okay, thank you like for the picture. And I like was like, I'm never gonna see her again. Like that was it. And I just like had my like happy moment of like, oh my God, I had a fangirl moment again. And I sit next to my boyfriend at the gate. Mind you, the gate is right next to the bathroom. So, and it was like 10 minutes until boarding. So we're like sitting there. And I told him, I was like, I just saw Halle Bailey, like the Little Mermaid. And he's like, what? Like, that's so cool. And I was like, like, I gotta see her. Like, you didn't. And then, of course, my look. she comes and she's on the same flight as me. And like there was nowhere to sit. So she happens to sit right next to my boyfriend, and she was with her boyfriend. And she was like trying to sit, she's trying to eat her sandwich or her salad or something. I didn't want to be like too creepy and like still like, what is she eating? So I just thought it was funny because I was like, oh my God, of course I just fangirled in the bathroom with her. And then she sits right next to us. And so I was just trying to like, act cool, like play it off. But she was really sweet, really humble. And I'm very excited to see the movie. I think it's going to be great. Disney movies never really fail. So I think this is going to be a good one. So I'm super excited. All right. Since we are getting closer to the end, and I want to stay on track to our spooky themed series because we're entering fall season. It's officially the first day of fall. I mean, it's not today, but we're just going to pretend it's the first day of fall on the podcast episode. It is October 2nd, I think, today, but this will air on Wednesday. So they're dropping all things spooky. There's a lot of new spooky things trending. But what really stood out to me was the Jeffrey Dahmer monster show. I think I said that wrong. I think it's called Monster, like Jeffrey Dahmer's like story or something. Sorry, I totally butchered that. But anyway, it's trending on Netflix right now. It's a new show. There's also a lot of controversial going on with the show right now, just because it is a true story. I want to talk about all the sides, okay? Because I think as a filmmaker, I think it's really important to show and talk about the choices they made in the show and why they're showing this, because I think that's being talked about right now. I watched all 10 episodes. I finished the series already. Ryan Murphy's the director. He has directed Versace. He's directed all the American Horror Story seasons, which is obviously a little bit scary, creepy. Oh, he also did the O.J. Simpson trials. So he has a good lineup going. He obviously likes covering things that are a little bit more thrilling, a little bit more shocking. Some are based on real stories. Some are a little bit out there that like like maybe your normal director wouldn't like tap into, but Ryan Murphy taps into, and I really admire that because I have a spooky side to me. So I'm like, all things Ryan Murphy are awesome. And then we got Evan Peters. He's an outstanding actor. He does like to play the murder roles a lot. If you watch American Horror Story, he's played like a murderer or like some type of killer like 4 different times. And now we can add the Jeffrey Dahmer series to his lineup. But I want to talk about why it's controversial. So Jeffrey Dahmer, if you don't know his story, he was a murderer back in like the 80s. He was a gay murderer. So what was interesting about this, he actually would go to gay bars and kind of pick his prey. I know it sounds fucked up. He would pick his prey because he would literally watch them, drug them, take them to his apartment, drug them even more if he needed to, and would kill them and then have like sexual intercourse with them sometimes, or dismember them and eat them. So it was a really fucked up situation. I think the reason why this murder case is so famous is because, like there was a lot of murders going around during this time for some reason. Like the John Gacy was happening, and the Nights, like there was a lot of murderers, but not for some reason, we know why. This one stood out the most because he was eating the guys that he was killing, and he was targeting all male men that were gay. So it was fucked up. It was a really fucked up situation, and he purposely was living in a community, in a neighborhood where cops didn't really show up as quick as they do now. We obviously still know we're dealing with these types of issues still to this day in certain areas, certain neighborhoods, but back then it was even worse, and the issue against racism was very active. So Jeffrey Dahmer actually lived in an apartment complex that was mostly African Americans, some Filipinos, some Mexicans. So it was more of a minority neighborhood, and he was able to target his victims there because the cops wouldn't come to that neighborhood as quickly as they would in a white neighborhood, which again, super fucked up. And I'm hoping like we can soon live in a world where this is not an issue, but unfortunately I can't say that yet right now. And it really does pain me because, I have Black family members. I have Mexican. we're such a diverse family, so it's upsetting to think that they can't live in peace, like the regular things that like white people could do. Anyway, the controversialness comes from basically them not being able to like basically, okay, so the controversial was like, was it fucked up to recreate this? Like, this is a true story, and there has been movies like about Ted Bundy, like there's been recreation movies about these murderers, right? So it's like, why is there so much controversial about this one? Like, why are people so upset? And I'm going to give you my point of view. This is just what I think. Obviously, you can have your own opinion, but I honestly think the reason why is because it's triggering to watch. You know, like some of these families, there were 17 victims, so all these families, you know, have to rewatch this. Like, they're still around. This was in the 80s. This is not that long ago. So I feel like it must be hard to watch. It's triggering. Not only do they have to watch their loved ones be like shared, like their stories being shared of how they were murdered, dismembered, eaten, but also like, you know, you have no control of how they're being portrayed. Like, obviously Ryan Murphy and the writer went off of like certain trial videos they saw on YouTube, news articles, things that they already have done their research on, and they're going to try to get it as accurate as they can. But obviously you still don't know how they're going to edit it and how it's going to turn out. So it's like upsetting if they portray your loved one in a way that you wouldn't want to. So I think that's very controversial. Also, a lot of them being minorities, homosexual, that's a very big term in that show. They kept saying homosexual, homosexual. And I feel like that might be controversial as well. It's like, why are you saying that term? Like, why can't you say like the LGBTQ community and stuff like that? So I think there was a lot of controversial moments in this show, but it's also a part of history, not necessarily a good part of history, but this is a big thing that happened. And it's important to talk about these things. It's also interesting, in my opinion, because I think they show and they bring awareness to like mental health and what makes a person a murderer, to do something so gruesome, to do something so evil. Like, what were the murder tendencies? Like, how did it all start? And I think we get a look at that in the Jeffrey Dahmer show, especially when they show the dad used to pick up roadkill with Jeffrey Dahmer and dissect the animals. Like, that's not really that normal. You know what I mean? That's a little weird. So I think that really gives us an insight. Okay, like that was a factor to it. The mom, you know, abusing alcohol and drugs, that could have been a factor. Jeffrey Dahmer having surgery, and they think like anesthesia had something to do with his brain balance, brain chemicals, because they might have given him too much. So these are all things that like add to it, right? The dad not being really around, not being a good father figure, not having that like stereotypical like, oh, men can't be emotional, men can't talk about their feelings, like if you cry and you're a man, you're weak. Like, there was all these like stereotypes. So I feel like if Jeffrey Dahmer had all these issues, he probably couldn't even like talk about it with his like dad at the time. And they do show that in the show, that it was different, and like that communication wasn't there. And you know, it was a time where mental health wasn't talked about as well. So it's like people had schizophrenia, people had these different issues like bipolar, anxiety, OCD, but some had it more severe, and it's like we didn't explore that yet. Like, it wasn't being talked about. So I think it's a learning lesson. I think it's interesting that we're talking about it now. It might not be in a way that everybody wants to see it, but it is important to talk about. And maybe because it is like Halloween season and then this came out, like maybe people feel like, oh, like you're making it seem like it's fake. It's like just like a movie. It's not like, it's like desensitized. I do want to say I believe that they without really, they show what happens, but they don't show too much where it feels like they really just wanted to make it gruesome so that they can get like that cool blood shot where it's like all squirting out. Like, it wasn't like that. And I think that's good on Ryan Murphy's part as a director, to really pay respects to the victims and the families and everybody that was involved. I think that was the right thing to do, because this is a very touchy subject, and you don't want it to make it, you don't want to portray it as like the director is like doesn't give a fuck about these people that the victims and the victims' families. Like, no, like he has a heart. He wants to like show like what happened in the most authentic way that it did, but with also respecting everyone involved. And I think that it was a really cool thing to see because that doesn't happen that often nowadays. And some people might say it's like, oh, it's a slow show. It starts so slow, like the pacing's slow. I could see that, but I also think sometimes we have such a short attention span that we want the answers quick. We want things like right away. But I'm just like, chill the fuck out. Like, wait for things. Like, good things can happen if you wait. Just wait. I promise. But yeah, that kind of concludes my Jeffrey Dahmer summarization. Sorry, I'm like off with my words today. I just feel like it was worth watching. I think if you're into like murder mysteries and that type of stuff, I think you should give it a watch. And I'm also super excited to announce the next coming weeks we're gonna have some demos going on. I have 2 demos that are gonna happen. We're gonna recreate an iconic scary movie character on me while they talk and explain how to recreate it. And we're going to talk about Halloween Horror Con. One of my friends who is also doing a demo there. So I'm super excited to get super spooky with you guys. I wanted to kick off the episode with filling you guys in with everything that's been happening. Wanted to talk about the Jeffrey Dahmer show because it's fucking trending and it's controversial. So I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. So let me know. Slide into my DMs and let me know. I'm super excited to have them come on and let me know what you guys think about our future guests. We are almost at the end of season 2, not too far away. We are already like on like episode 80, so we have like 20 episodes left and we are done. And you already know season 3 is going to be crazier and bigger and better. So I'm very excited about that. I'm also going to be finding out what I'm going to be doing next after the show ends. I have 1 month left until Fatal Attraction ends, and then we go into post-production. So there could be a very, very different setup going on in November. Let's just say that. Good and bad, but life is always changing and it's all about adapting. So I think that's today's lesson is adapt because the world is adapting and you don't want to be left in the dust. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in. I'm so excited to see you guys next week.